Welcome to episode 205 of Angela Watson's Truth for Teachers. I'm your host, Angela Watson, and I'm here to speak life, encouragement, and truth into the minds and hearts of educators and get you energized for the week ahead. Today, I'm going to share what to do when doing your best just doesn't feel like it's good enough. Visit truthforteachers.com to get the transcript, or find our Truth for Teachers podcast community on Facebook. If you ever use a paper flip chart, you know that after one use, you're done. Now more than ever, especially with many teaching from home, we have to be more efficient. Check out Whitebook Flip Chart at whitebook.com/truthforteachers. These flip charts are reusable dry erase surfaces that make it so easy to snap a picture and upload it to your Google Drive or Dropbox for quick sharing with your students. Go to whitebook.com/truthforteachers and receive 30% off your order. If you want to combine a love of teaching with a love of travel, I hope you'll join us on a trip through BBT Adventures. They're an innovative PD company founded by teachers to allow educators to learn from each other internationally. On your trip, you receive 20-plus PD hours, and you get to explore an amazing country with a small, safe group of fellow educators. You can learn from teachers in places like South Africa, Egypt, Australia, Germany, and Finland, where I'll be leading a BBT Adventures trip in 2021. Spots are limited, so check availability at bbtteachers.com. So this episode is about what to do when your best just doesn't feel like it's meeting the mark. And I'll be really transparent here and admit that I've felt like that a lot lately. I have felt lately like I am just constantly disappointing people and letting them down. And part of the reason why is because I've really pared back on the number of things that I say yes to. I'm just not doing as many things as I used to. I have intentionally dropped the ball, to use the expression from a wonderful book by Tiffany Dufu. It's called Drop the Ball. And she talks a lot about that, about making the decision to let someone else handle something or to let something not happen. And that's what I've been doing lately. I don't know if people actually are disappointed in me or if this is just in my head, but there's so many things that I feel like I should be doing. And I either don't have the time or the energy or the mental bandwidth, the capacity, or the expertise to do them. And in many instances, frankly, I also lack the desire to do the things that I feel like I should. There's just a lot of things demanding my energy right now. And you're an educator, so you know that feeling really well, right? Like no matter how much you do, it doesn't feel like it's enough. There's always something more that's expected of you. And so we say things like, I'm doing my best. That's all I can do. And just do my best each day. I give what I can give, and that has to be enough. But I want to talk today about what happens when your best isn't actually enough, when what you have to give is not sufficient for the challenges. Because I think that is a reality for many teachers right now. What you are capable of doing for your students, given all the limitations right now, it's just not enough. Your hands are tied, but the outcome is just not going to be ideal. And I know some of y'all are in situations where you've really been set up to fail, where doing a great job for kids really isn't possible. And others are facing just an overwhelming learning curve and constant readjustments, and you have little support and little training. For many kids, our best in schools this year is just not going to be good enough. Remote learning is just not going to be good enough for some of them. The hybrid model and safe distance learning in the classroom, also not going to be good enough for some of them. There are ways to do all of these things well, of course. I'm constantly trying to surface those ideas and make those best practices accessible for you. We're not giving up on educating kids here. And I'll talk more about that in a moment. I'm just saying that with the limitations that most schools are facing in terms of staffing and equipment, Wi-Fi even, the quality of teaching and learning is going to be compromised in ways that don't feel good to you. And you will probably be made to feel in many different ways that what you're doing is not enough. This is tough to endure when you get into education to make a difference, and then you feel disillusioned because you can't do what you want and need to do for kids. And I just hear from countless teachers every single day who are feeling just like that. They know what that needs to be done, and it can't be done. It's not possible right now. And it's frustrating because we know what we're capable of under optimal circumstances. And these are not optimal circumstances or anything close to it. So the only options are to try to single-handedly compensate for all the adverse circumstances and perform at a superhuman level every day, or adjust our expectations. And if these were short-term challenges, I might go for option A and just power through it. But we're 7 months into this pandemic now, and our society in the US is still operating on a fundamentally different basis. So we have to switch into a long-term strategy. Working 16-hour days every day for months on end is not sustainable. So here's the thing that I want to acknowledge. We are all experiencing various levels of collective grief right now. There is a sense of loss for what we're missing out on. Might be being close to friends and family, or traveling, or vacations, or just our normal way of life. Some are also grieving deeper losses for any number of reasons, and not being able to process those losses in our normal ways is also painful. And the thing about grief is that we each experience it differently. And there are many different phases and types of grief which people might cycle through. Some days I'm content. I've made peace with the limitations right now. The things that I love that are unavailable to me currently, I'm at peace with it. I feel content. I'm able to embrace these new routines for as long as I need to. And other days, I'm simply resigned to these new routines. I might feel restless or frustrated. Sometimes I'm deeply sad. I have moments when I feel hopelessness and helplessness that will never seem to end. But that's the other thing about grief, right? That it doesn't feel the same forever. The ups and downs are all a natural, expected part of the process. So if that's how you're feeling, if it's all these mixed emotions and ups and downs and times when you feel optimistic and hopeful and times when it just feels like an impossible situation that's not even worth trying because it's just not going to happen, all of that is so normal. You are so not alone in experiencing all of that. And so my encouragement to you is to avoid dwelling on the losses. Don't focus on the things that you could have done or you wish could be different. Don't torture yourself by imagining how much better everything would have been if only certain conditions had been different. Your kids' learning gains over the next few weeks are probably not going to be an accurate measure of your abilities or theirs. Their learning or lack thereof is not reflective of your worth or their worth. You've been teaching through a crisis. We are still in a crisis in the US. Just because we had some lead time to plan for a different way of teaching in the fall does not mean the crisis is over. Because this is not what we chose, this social distance teaching or this pivot to remote learning. We're doing things the way we are right now because we're attempting to find a path forward out of a crisis. And if you're listening to this, that means you've made it this far. And that's worth something. It's worth a lot, in fact. I hope you will look back on this past spring and these first weeks of school as a test of resilience and fortitude that you have passed. You did it. You got through the sudden and unexpected transition from the style of teaching that you're used to, and you fully immersed yourself in something completely different and nowhere near ideal for you or your students. You faced limitations and setbacks and confusion with the best you were able to give at the time. And now you'll continue on with that same determined attitude. I know we can't just lie down and roll over. We can still do something great with kids this year. We can look for ways to do something awesome. Maybe not everything awesome, but something awesome. And even if we don't know what it looks like yet, just the idea of that is motivating. And right now, we all need to cling to any thoughts that are energizing. One thing that I know for sure right now is that nothing is for sure. Each day I am practicing what it means to detach from expectations. I am practicing how to let go of projections into the future and worrying now about what I will and won't be able to do later. The truth is that none of us know for sure what the winter or spring will be like yet. So there's no point in depressing ourselves by assuming that certain problems or obstacles will still present themselves in the future. And there's also no point in getting our heart set on something happening that might not actually happen. Remember what you thought last March was going to be like? And remember what you thought was going to happen in June? And what you thought the first week of school would be like? 2020 is not a year for predictions or planning ahead. It is a time to learn to be present in each moment as it comes. And this is a practice. We have to choose this perspective and this feeling in each moment of each day. There is comfort in not knowing, because it means the problems that you're anticipating might not ever occur. You really don't know what next month is going to be like, and it could be exponentially better than what you thought. Or one specific thing might be different, and that will change the entire experience and open up new possibilities that we can't even imagine right now with the current limitations. I shared in episode 204, which was about new opportunities for meeting kids' individual needs, that there's a guiding question that has been helpful for me, and it's this: what else is possible now that wouldn't have been possible in a normal school year? Instead of just looking at what we can't do, let's ask a better question. What else is possible now that wouldn't have been possible in a normal year? Let's think about what we can do that was beyond the realm of possibility before COVID. And I want to share another question that I've been returning to again and again since March. Who do I want to be on the other side of this pandemic? When all of this is over and we have no more restrictions on travel or crowds of people or anything else due to the virus, who do I want to be? What kind of person do I want this experience to be shaping me into? I want to look back on 2020 and not think about all the things that I couldn't do or all the experiences that I missed out on. That's part of it for sure. But I also want to look back and think, I learned to finally be present in each moment because I no longer held the illusion of control or the illusion of the ability to plan ahead. I learned not to rush my life away waiting for the next thing to happen. I practiced contentment on a daily basis, finding the small wins and little joys and making them feel bigger than the obstacles. I didn't waste 2020 thinking about all the stuff I couldn't do. I showed up each day without expectation, detached from any beliefs about what the day should be like or how things are supposed to go. I practice radical acceptance toward what actually is, and that made me a stronger person. I want to look back and say, this experience was a refining fire. It burned away the parts of me that weren't serving me well, and it left a purer, stronger version of me. I am a better person now because of what I experienced in 2020. This is a time for patience and flexibility. It's a chance to learn to be soft-hearted toward ourselves and others when our basic instincts want to just flare into anger and indignation at having to deal with all these problems we never signed up for. I know this is a time for going inward, to stop looking for validation from outside sources, and to stop seeking others' approval and make peace within ourselves. It's time to let go of regrets and that could have, should have anxiety. I'm working on this too. We have to forgive ourselves for the missteps. Open yourself up to repairing the harm done via honest conversations and apologies where needed, and make peace in every way with what's already done so that you can have a fresh start moving forward. I'm no longer surprised or irritated with myself when I make a mistake or I forget something. My brain is in a constant fog these days. So why should I be surprised that I didn't do something to my usual standard? It's not a surprise, it's to be expected. Instead of berating myself for forgetting, I'm congratulating myself when I remember. Like, you forgot to get X at the store, Angela, but of course you did. Your mind is elsewhere. But you did remember to get Y and Z, and that's pretty awesome. This kinder, gentler self-talk where I expect myself not to be performing to an optimal standard, and I recognize when I am able to meet expectations instead of focusing on all the things that I'm doing to fall short, the kinder, gentler self-talk like that makes a big difference. If you don't think it matters, imagine someone following you around all day long, pointing out everything you do wrong and how that would make you feel. versus someone standing over your shoulder, noticing every positive thing you do and cheering you on. This is what our self-talk does. It's a story we're telling ourselves, a constant narration that most of us have in our minds all the time, and bringing our awareness to it is so important. I have a pretty kind internal narration now after years of shaping it, but I have taken it to a new level with COVID. I am proud of myself for doing really basic things on a daily basis that I used to take for granted. I celebrate the small stuff instead of focusing on all the things that I didn't do. I have relaxed my expectations for myself, and there is a peace to be found in that. Because when I can show grace toward myself, I can show it to those around me. And this is a time for more humility and patience and understanding than ever before. The challenges that we're facing right now are, dare I use the term that we have all come to dread, unprecedented? I mean, it is a good descriptor, right? These challenges are unprecedented. So who do I want to be on the other side of this challenge? It's not going to be easy. It's going to be worth it.